Welcome to Washington in Focus. I'm your host, Tim Clauser, with the Center Square's Western Washington reporter, Spencer Polly. Now, Spencer, you covered quite the protest over the last weekend, as I'm sure many saw across the country. But I want to hear a little bit more about your perspective on these hands-off protests that many took up. You were in Seattle. Speak on your experience there.
Crowded. That's for sure, man. I think there was about 25,000 people packed into the Seattle Center. So just overlooking the Space Needle, it was just tons of signs, tons of people, flags. It was quite the scene there in the Seattle Center. As you said, it was for the hands off rally. I think there was like 1,300 some demonstrations over the entire country, probably more than that. And this is all part of the hands off event, which basically entails, protesters saying, for Donald Trump and Elon Musk to please stop doing cuts to federal government agencies, lay off immigration reform policies, whatnot. But it was a pretty broad message across the spectrum in Seattle. I mean, I saw flags, Ukrainian flags, Canadian flags, support for Palestine, LGBTQ rights. It was just a general rally for anyone just to get their message across. So that's what I saw there for sure.
Yeah, many outlets were calling it the single largest, I guess, show of defiance against the Trump administration since he took
hmm
office in January. I'm kind of wondering, what were people telling you on the ground? I mean, obviously there was thousands and thousands of supporters of the protest there, but did you see people in opposition too? Was there people that were kind of hanging on the fence? What was the consensus when you were there?
Yeah, no, let's see. Let me just say the crowd skewed older. There was a lot of older people there, and I talked to one lady, and she was first off, she said, what disappoints me is there was no media here. And I looked at her and said, ma'am, I am a reporter. Now I didn't have my fedora and the press, the press statement right
Your
there.
pants sticking out?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really look the part, whatever the stereotype of what a journalist looks like, but. She was talking to me a bit off the record. She said she used to protest in the 1960s, and she's like, I didn't think I have to be here doing it again today. But there was a plenty of others just like her that were saying, like, I did this back, so long ago, and here I am protesting again. But there was that, and I will say it was peaceful. I didn't see any kind of clash, except for there was one gentleman who had a sign saying "You will burn in hell," and then there was just a bunch of other protesters trying to crowd him and put their signs to block his. Other than that, maybe there was one altercation I saw where someone had a flag where stitch was half American flag and half Ukrainian, and then someone goes, "That's not my flag, buddy," and the other guy goes, "I don't know what you're talking about, man," and then separate. So pretty passive aggressive there, and yeah, it was pretty chill, I would say. There was we had Representative Pramila Jayapal give a fiery speech. She led in some chants, including a more complicated one that it was kind of funny to see the crowd try to do was "Ain't no power like the power of the people, and the power of the people won't stop." That was a lot. That was a good challenge for the 25,000 plus crowd.
Yeah, 25,000. I mean, that's a considerable amount of people. I'm not sure how big the largest protest was, but you just spoke on U.S. Representative Jayapal joining the protest. I'm sure others as well. I mean, did you get a chance? I saw that former Governor Jay Inslee, who left office just in January, he was there as well. Did you get a chance to speak with him? What were his words to supporters there?
Dude, I couldn't even get to the front. I tried to get any kind of video of the actual speakers, but it was crowded to the top, and I had to force my way to get any kind of space. That's how packed it was in there, like sardines. But yeah, Inslee, his speech, I will say, probably wasn't as fiery as Jayapal's, but he basically like rallied the crowd saying, we will not be bullied by Trump, we will not be bought by Musk, and we're going to fight against this. And that was the message altogether. I mean, there were some speakers who represent nurses saying we have to fight for nurses. There was people saying we have to, defund Tesla. Don't support Tesla because you're supporting Musk. all of that across the board there. And, I think the more entertaining aspect of the protest for me was the signs. There were some pretty clever signs that I mentioned in my story. There's one including some of the highlights like Veto the Cheeto, which, talks about, let's say, Trump's more orange complexion. And I've seen better cabinets at IKEA, which I, for one, agree with because yeah, my IKEA cabinet isn't the greatest. I've had to fix it a couple times, and then my favorite was an elaborate sign depicting Trump, and the guy would twist this like a puppet, and the Trump's head would go all the way into his own posterior, as I put it. So, entertaining. But yeah, you're seeing all of these opposers to what is basically the federal government trying to downsize amongst huge deficits. And you're only seeing one side of the party here. I didn't see any, I'm in Seattle first off, so it would be really rare for me to see a counter protest of sorts. So and I even went outside of the event to see if maybe there were any Make America Great Again, hats or anyone trying to oppose that, but not in Seattle, man. It was overwhelmingly one-sided, to put it lightly.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that constituents nationwide have called on their Democratic representatives and senators to stand up to the Trump administration. That really led to these mass protests across the country. I mean, we spoke on Jayapal joining, Inslee and others. Washington State has taken a stand against the administration more so than a lot of other states, with our attorney general.
Right.
Pushing these lawsuits against the administration. Do you think with this large protest in Seattle and others taking place across the country, do you think this is going to be a big enough push to sort of get some action from Democrats, or do you think it will satisfy their constituents' concerns, or did it kind of seem like a puppet show?
I wouldn't call it a puppet show. I think when you have this many people protesting, it sends a message. And I was having people ask me, I was like, what good does it do? What's this going to do? And I don't know, the Trump administration hasn't really commented on the protests, and we'll have to see. But what I can say is when you're there with 25,000 people, there's this sort of energy that you feel like this anger, this frustration. And, I think for a lot of people, they're telling me it just felt emotional to be there, to see all these people that were in the same boat as them. So I guess in moments like this, for peaceful protests, it's finding your group and finding people who share the same frustrations as you. Now, when you see, your leaders like Jayapal and former Governor Jay Inslee kind of saying, we got your back, we will not stand for this, we're going to fight. It gives protesters and gives, these people who are frustrated a sense of hope. And maybe that's the big takeaway out of this, is that, they will not go down without a fight, I think. Now, what's going to happen? It's going to be on these lawsuits, perhaps on, this is on Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown's shoulders, and as well as state policies. What are we going to do to combat this? Even at a local level, we're looking at Seattle. Are they going to remain a sanctuary city? Are they going to remain true to their values, that they are not going to work with federal, the ICE? Are they going to change any of this? And so far, they're not. And but that could change when you have a lack of federal funding, especially with all these budget deficits at the state, local level, county level. So we're going to see. But I think with this big of a crowd, at least shows the support that they have in the let's say the opposition to the Trump administration.
And I mean, regardless of what side you stand on politically or ideologically, this is how you get a message across. I mean, Attorney General Nick Brown, he might be pushing these lawsuits, and that might be able to block some of Trump's executive orders and such. But really, you're not going to see big changes until you get big swaths of public opinion moving. And that's what these protests did. And whether or not the Trump administration picks up any of those recommendations, I mean, we'll find out. We'll see how these lawsuits play out. But it definitely did change the tone of the conversation that I've noticed the last few weeks. I mean, you really have Democrats pushing against Republicans and vice versa. But there hasn't been this huge outspoken show of support all at once. It might be a little demonstration here and a little demonstration here, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, 25,000 people alone in Seattle, and that was one event across the entire country. There was ones that were bigger, smaller. There was dozens across Washington. Seattle wasn't alone in this. So, regardless of where you stand, it's obvious that there's large groups of people, especially in Washington, against what the Trump administration is trying to do. But thank you, Spencer, for covering this story. And if we do see those changes and as these lawsuits play out, I look forward to reading your coverage and digging into those more. But thank you for joining us today on Washington in Focus.